Hey everyone, this is Love and Life Elevated. Nice to see you. I'm Dr. Deborah Rouse.
And I'm Dr. James. It's so good to see you today. And so great to see you, honey.
You know what's so great is literally it's been a morning and we were sitting here like, well, what do we want to talk about today? And I'm just like in a mood. I'm just going to say it. So, but actually we came to a really fun subject, and I'm going to call it like conversation starters because it's so appropriate, because in typical Debbie mode, I could be shutting down with like my personality, with my mood, if I'm being totally real.
I love you for that, sweetheart. And I love the fact that this is exactly how our morning was.
Yeah.
You know, life happens, and this morning was one of those things where everything from the dog not doing
whatever, it
and
doesn't
people
matter.
showing up and all the things, right? And then you have to come back to this place where we want to do what we love to do, and that's connect with you. So we immediately moved to this place where we had this date on Saturday.
We had a great date Saturday night.
We had a great date Saturday night. And it started with we had to do some other things before the date. So we had a list of things to do before we went out for dinner with some friends. And we actually arrived to the restaurant, or in front of the restaurant, literally 30
Got
minutes.
a great parking spot.
And we're like, oh, let's take this one. And so there we were, 30 minutes ahead of schedule.
Right.
And we were just... And I want to say something because it's so sweet after almost 32 years together.
Not almost.
Like actually over 32. Now it's over 32. Yeah. We sat in the car and we just kept talking about life and the things that we were happy about and the things we were grateful about. And it was really amazing because as we're getting ready to wrap up to go to our dinner date, that was now time after sitting in the car for half an hour. I think you said...
No, it was after dinner when we were walking back to the car, and I said, you know, how we sat in the car for half an hour, and it was like effortless. It was fun. And you know, we work together like all day, every day. Not really. He has his coaching, I have my patients. He has his different company. Like, we've got different businesses and our business together. But the point being that we mostly 90% of the time are working from home. So we are together, not to mention COVID and like together. And we've had a lot of periods of time in our relationship where we were like 24/7 together. So the fact that we had this half an hour where, you know, you would think you would run out of things to talk about, but we can just gab away. And what we talked about was like, maybe we're not saying that we're super cool because we can do that. I mean, great. It's great for us.
We're not that
cool.
But
I said we would have probably been just as happy listening to music because we love mostly all the same music, and you're such a gamer. Like, I could put on show tunes and you would let me.
until I start singing them and I'm completely off.
But like, we find that commonality, and so we thought, and then, you know, we're just after this this very polarizing election, and we're going to dinner with some really good friends, but friends that we haven't spent a ton of time with.
Yeah, and I think that the thing we really came to, and this is what we want to talk about today. That's a long preamble to what we want to talk about today. I'm in a headspace. And more importantly, I think I'm in a heart space where I'm looking for new things to talk about. I think no matter where you were in the election, it was a big part of our conversations, right? And we found ourselves in places where that became such a part of everything, and with good reason. There's a lot of things that are really charged for people, and we're very invested and we're very passionate about. But can we just go ahead and yes, that is that.
You know what? Can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Sure.
Because I would love for you to talk about something right along those lines that you're really good at explaining and just even helping me understand. And it's that default mode network. Mm-hmm. And I feel like if with my understanding, I'm not sure if it's correct, but going into the election, politics was the default mode conversationally.
Yeah. So what we can talk about with that exactly is that anytime that we've been in a place where we've been thinking about something a lot, or even talking about something a lot, you know, your brain starts to form patterns of thinking. So it's called a neuroplastic experience. So whatever it is that you're thinking about and talking about a lot becomes a pattern for us. And we will default to go to that when we're not really thinking about it or even just kind of doing our life. We're going, oh, this popped in about a certain political situation, or this kind of came in, and you're with people and the default mode network just kicks in unless we're intentional. And it's very interesting. It's like automatic pilot for our brain. Our automatic pilot is it defaults to a place that we're comfortable, that's well rehearsed, that we're potentially very passionate about. But do you ever find yourself in a situation where you're going, I don't want to talk about that anymore. I just want to put that away for a little while. And that is when we get a chance to actually move out of the default mode network and move into some fresh, new, creative ideas, which is not only healthy for our brain, it actually is great for our gray matter. It helps us with memory. It helps us with mental health. It also is an amazing something called an emotional contagion, where when we engage from that place, it invites others in to engage from that place. So it literally is that, that Rumi quote that I say almost every Wednesday, beyond right doing and wrongdoing, there's a field. I'll meet you in that field. This is the field, neurochemically speaking, that we can go to and have fresh, vibrant, hopefully connected conversations on things that really bring us to life. And it moves us into a place that new dialogue starts to help to ensue through us. And our mental, physical, and emotional well-being follows from there.
Yeah, and I know you and I are similar, and you may not know this about James because you are such an out there, bubbly personality, but you don't love, say, parties. You're not extroverted in that sense, and you don't like small talk, nor do I. And so we were thinking so we're going into this date Saturday night with another couple, but thankfully it was really effortless. We found plenty of other things in common and other things to talk about. But say you're at, you're going to a party. There's all these holiday parties coming up, whether it's the office, it's your neighbor, it's your friends, you're hosting. And rather than skipping into that default mode network of thinking or old stories or how's the weather, what are some fun things that we can talk about that maybe would put everyone, like icebreakers and things that would be surprising and different and fun, so that you walk away not feeling so heavy or, oh gosh, I'm so tired of talking about this, or well, that was, bizarre. Again, we're post a very interesting election. You're going to go to these parties or maybe you're going to opt out. I don't know. But chances are it's going to be an interesting energy. We talked about energy and feeling the energy last week. So how can you walk in and raise the vibration of the space, whether it's you and one other person, you in a double date, or you in a party situation?
Yes. So what I'd like to encourage us to think about today is something that I think that is absolutely in a deficit for a lot of us right now, and that is hope and trust. And Deb and I do a lot of talks about this when we go out and do presentations. This is an area that I spent up in the treehouse. I've done several of these over and over again on the power of oxytocin. And I think this is a time where oxytocin is probably a really necessary hormone, chemical that we do have infinite opportunities to create. And some of the primary benefits of oxytocin is it lowers inflammation. It helps us to build trust. It really encourages a sense of hope. And it's really beautiful because when we're having conversations with people, simple things like appropriate contact, like just, oh, I hear you, it's nice to see you again, anything like that. And again, respectfully, but that type of a move, eye contact, a smile, things that literally are so effortless. But I think a lot of us are going, gosh, when was the last time I smiled effortlessly? When was the last time I made really appropriate eye contact? And I was really engaged in that way. I was really present. When we do that, oxytocin levels rise. So there's a trust that's happening between the two people. And then there's an energy of hope. And then from there, I think we start to organically kind of curate interesting conversation that takes us into these beautiful places. All of us are going, wow, that was such a present conversation. It was so real. We were talking about kids. We were talking about our purpose. We were talking about God, life, whatever. But you get a chance to initiate oxytocin. And when you do that, healing is happening. You're bridge building, the stuff that I think we really want, right? Gosh, it gets me emotional. I want to be building bridges right now. I absolutely am intent on that.
When you were just bringing that up, I was getting some
goodness.
really great visuals because we're both huggers, but you're really a hugger. And in your treehouse talks,
I'm an introvert who loves to hug.
well, and in a lot of your presentations out there, and in your treehouse talks, you've talked about like the 10-second hug, the 20-second hug. We've read about the 6-second kiss. We've practiced the 6-second kiss. So I was picturing going to these like neighborhood parties or whatever, and like imagine you're just walking up to someone who's maybe just an acquaintance or someone you're just meeting, and you like go all in with like, I mean, you think a 20-second hug is or 10-second hug is uncomfortable. Try 20 seconds.
And why 20 seconds, sweetheart?
Well, because it raises oxytocin. It's like imagine.
You got to go all in.
Yeah. Either that or like ask the host if they have any dogs and just go straight for the dog and like petting the dog, right?
Oh, that's such a great idea because that's almost like a pregame or foreplay. Once you do that, you're kind of going...
Or maybe you don't like people.
Yeah. Either way, but if there's a pet in the house or before you leave, you're either hugging your sweetie or you're petting your pet, because that actually raises oxytocin. And it's really interesting. It is your own way of opening yourself back up again.
Right.
And I think I've talked to a lot of people I coach. You've talked to patients. We've talked to friends and family. A lot of us are feeling kind of closing down. And a lot of us are feeling kind of resistant to open back up again. And that's a process, right? Mm-hmm. It's going to take some healing time. There's a grieving experience. Other people are elated, and there's that whole thing. And that's all beautiful, right? Everyone's doing their emotion. And if you're in a place where you're going, I really want to start bridge building again. I really want to start healing. I want to start, because regardless of where you were in the politics, I think all of us agree, most all of us, there's healing that needs to happen in this country. There's healing that needs to happen in this world. And you get a chance to be an initiator by beginning your own anti-inflammatory oxytocin exchange person and watching how that from there starts to build these bridges, gives you hope, helps to build trust. And as a side effect, you're fighting accelerated aging. You're decreasing inflammation. You're doing all this beautiful inner work that is expressing itself on the outside.
Yeah, totally. And I think making eye contact is super important with whoever you're engaging with, if that's comfortable for you. And it may be uncomfortable, but if you can do it, do it. It's just... sometimes I walk away from a conversation, I think, I don't think that person like made eye contact with me once. And so then I feel disconnected from the person. But whatever you think you can engage in, whether it's starting the conversation with music or, hey, where's the next place on your travel bucket list? Or, I don't know, something like that. Tell me something crazy about your family. That could take it down a funny direction. But really go out on a limb and stretch yourself with reaching, as we have been talking, speaking of politics, reaching across the aisle, finding the commonality, making eye contact, smiling with your eyes. And if it feels comfortable, leaning in for that touch, for that hug, certainly by the end of the night, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You may not want to start with that. You got to kind of test things out there.
Well, you would.
The introvert who hugs 20 seconds right out of the gate. That's me. So yeah, I think the take home is... it's beautiful, right? It's an invitation. And I would love your comments. We would love to read what comes up for you around this topic of bridge building and trust building and hope building. And also what it is for your walk right now and how are you going about your own healing process and what is your hope for the way in which, and I shared this with Deb just before, I'm a voracious reader, and so is Deb. But today I was reading about this whole idea about it's a book that talks about politics, but more from a spiritual place and more from an emotionally charged good place. And the etymology of the word politic, guess what it is? Good citizen. I read that and I really, really emotionally go, oh my goodness. So really what's behind politics, what used to be behind politics, is how do we use our politic to bring forward good citizenship? So I think this is an opportunity to really personalize how we would love to us for being good citizens, expressing values that are loving and kind and inclusive, doing what it is that makes you feel more connected and present, and simply being a beneficial presence on the planet is, I think, the politic that we really need to be running for and putting out in the world as our primary policy.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like you're going into our next talk, which is wonderful. But on that note, I love that you're always leading with your heart. You're always principle-centered, value-centered, and that you bring that to everything that you do. And I love that we can share that with our friends who are watching. So thank you for being here. Thanks for listening. And I think we will still see you next week. The day
Yes, we will. Just before Thanksgiving in the U.S.
In the U.S. And we love you. So take good care, and we will see you next week.
Thank you, sweetheart.
Thank you.
Much love, every blessing. See you next Wednesday. Leave your comments about what's working for you and what are you doing to build bridges to yourself first and then across. Peace and blessings. Bye for now.
Take care.